I have been waiting for you, my child, not just for a brief instant, but for a long period of silence, watching to see whether you would notice that something was approaching. Normally, I don't wait, because my nature is one of active, relentless motion, and I usually act swiftly to realign the stars in your favor. But this time I refrained because I wanted you to deeply sense the gravity of what I was going to say. In the quiet, unseen regions of existence, something has been working against you, a covert current trying to erode your foundation, and that hidden effort is finally revealed tonight. There has been an unidentifiable, suffocating pressure in your life for a long time, acting like an invisible weight that you carried from room to room. And before you could even put it into words, you could feel it pressing heavy in your chest. You could feel it when you were unable to sleep at night, staring at the ceiling while the world slept, and your mornings felt heavier than they ought to have, making the simple act of stepping out of bed feel like climbing a mountain. That pressure was entirely real, I can assure you. So hear me when I say that it wasn't a sign of weakness or a figment of your imagination, but rather it was the muffled sound of something trying to remain concealed in the dark, and heaven simply not allowing it to stay hidden anymore. In order to slow down your progress or steal what is rightfully coming for you before it ever reaches your hands, there has been a stealthy, calculated effort to observe your life from the shadows, examining your daily actions, your quiet choices, and your personal aspirations. There was no way this could be allowed to end in your defeat, for I have witnessed every covert hand that has worked against you, and I can assure you that none of it will be allowed to continue for another moment. You don't have to comprehend every intricate aspect of the things that have been working against you, nor do you need to waste your energy mapping out the strategies of the shadows, because all you have to know tonight is that I am the one who discovered it. I am the shield that prevents what is rightfully yours from ending up in the hands of another person, and I refuse to allow what was intended to be a beautiful blessing to be perverted and turned against you. I was in the middle of the conflict fighting for you before you ever realized a battle was even going on. And this message is not meant to scare you or make you look over your shoulder, but rather it is a divine wake-up call. My child, there is a vast distinction between awareness and dread. And tonight, I'm offering you pure awareness because fear keeps you small, paralyzed, and concealed, whereas awareness liberates you completely. I want you to move forward today knowing that I was keeping an eye on everything, rather than worrying about what was going on around you. So consider the quiet times in your life that appeared to drag on for no apparent reason. Think of the doors that, despite your best efforts, your tears, and your knocking, seemed to remain stubbornly closed, and realize that those delays concealed a profound goal. It was never absent, even though it appeared to be, because behind what was visible to your human eyes, I was working tirelessly, clearing a route that wasn't able to support you yet, so you couldn't walk on it until it was perfectly safe. You have carried a heavy burden that was never entirely yours to bear, my darling, and a significant portion of it originated from people who researched you in an effort to slow you down. But through it all, I observed every anxious thought, every unsaid concern, and every raw prayer you whispered when you believed no one was nearby to hear it have always been fully visible to me. and everyone was given to me. I'm going to reveal what has been going on in the places you can't see tonight. And I'm not doing this to frighten you, but rather to permanently relieve you of any unjustified suspicions you had about yourself. You were absolutely correct to think something wasn't quite right. You were correct to believe that forces outside of your own consciousness were testing your tranquility. And as the season of covert interference is coming to a definitive end, you can already feel the tectonic change starting. In its stead, the season of open, undeniable blessing is beginning to emerge. And there isn't a single plot against you that can outlive my control over your life. Tonight, I want that fact to get deeply ingrained in your bones so that you have a solid, unbreakable base, knowing that what was intended to perplex you will instead serve to make your way perfectly clear. What was intended to hold you back will serve as grand evidence of how meticulously I have been directing your course throughout your entire existence. So in this time, let your soul rest completely. It is not your responsibility to figure everything out tonight. And I'm not requesting that you look into what was done behind closed doors or trace the steps of those who wronged you. All I'm asking is that you have faith that I've already dealt with it, and that my fingerprints, not those of anyone who attempted to obstruct you, will be beautifully on whatever comes next in your life. I am aware that there were times when you would lie awake for hours and ask yourself the same agonizing question over and over again, wondering why you could never manage to find lasting peace. When the truth was never about what you did wrong, you looked for an explanation in your own decisions and mistakes. But I want you to stop looking for flaws in yourself right now. There was nothing broken in you, because the timing I had already established was simply being hampered by something outside of you. And I have personally intervened to make things right. There is a rare type of love that acts fiercely without waiting to be asked. And I have exactly that kind of affection for you, which is why I took action against the risk without waiting for you to recognize it. You are mine, and what worries you has always worried me first, which is why I relocated mountains and shifted seasons on your behalf, working in places you couldn't yet see, even at the times when you felt utterly neglected. So let today be the precise night that you begin to open your hands to receiving instead of bracing yourself and waiting for disappointment. Your burdens were never meant to be a lifelong punishment, for seasons must change, and that heavy season was just one of them passing away. I'm asking you to fully embrace the reality that I've already outpaced your enemies, removing every single barrier that stood in your way before you even realized it was there. My darling, hear me clearly, because this new chapter is not something you are entering on your own or without protection, as all of your secrets are being revealed, not to embarrass anyone, but to fully and completely liberate you. Your next steps will proceed more quickly than you ever anticipated because of what was done to slow you down, as I am transforming what was intended to hurt you into the solid cornerstone of your future. If this truth finds its way into your heart, declare your Amen right now. Your spirit was fully aware of the struggle going on around you, even though you were unable to see it with your normal eyes, and you sensed a change in your environment, an inexplicable tension that you couldn't shake. Something was monitoring your movements, your money, your connections, and your personal aspirations in order to slow down the positive things that were meant for you before they even got to you. That endeavor has completely failed. I tell you now, because I keep what is rightfully yours out of the hands of people who want to steal from you. And I have kept an eye on your journey with a level of intimacy that is impossible to quantify. I acted quickly to undermine the plot that was developing against you, standing directly between you and what was about to happen as soon as your name was threatened. And I haven't left that location since. You might be wondering how something so covert might be completely undone, but nothing is concealed from my sight, my darling. And I can hear what is spoken in private just as plainly as if it were screamed across a wide, open field. I have already witnessed the conclusion of every plot designed to harm you, and to put it straight, your absolute freedom is at the end of this one. Those who attempted to outwit you by observing from a distance had no idea what they were up against, because they simply witnessed the outward manifestation of your life, including your difficulties, hardships, and slow periods. What I see was never visible to them, for long before you realized it for yourself. I implanted a powerful calling within you. You belong to me, thus anything they attempted to research and take advantage of was never really accessible to them. So I want you to let go of any desire to exact revenge or to find out every detail of what was done to you. You don't have to do that at all, because while I continue to deal with what was put in motion against you, your only task is to move on with the freedom I am granting you. Since I am already handling it more thoroughly than you could on your own, I am requesting that you disclose it and drop a 222 in the comments to claim this peace. During this season, some people will act suspiciously, say things behind your back, or withdraw from your life without giving a reason. But don't try to get answers from them. You don't have to expose anyone for me, because all I ask is that you have faith that I will see everything, and that whatever was done against you behind your back will eventually come to light. Truth always finds its way into the light, not because you pushed it there, but because it is the natural law of my kingdom. This is not the time to make your case to those who have already secretly formed opinions about you, but rather this is the time to remain motionless and allow me to act on your behalf. I fight in a completely different way than the rest of the world, and to bring about true justice, I don't need conflict, because I work silently, slowly, and thoroughly until the same thing that was intended to hurt you turns into something that strengthens you even more. When that weird uneasiness first began to permeate your days, you were a different person, and what appeared to be confusion was actually a sort of defense, keeping you vigilant as I worked in the background to undermine the forces working against you. You were never weak because of that uneasiness, and even if your mind was still unable to interpret what it was sensing, it was an indication that your spirit was paying deep attention. Now let your shoulders relax, let go of the strain you've been carrying for so long, because you are not required to remain vigilant as you have been. Now it is me who is on watch, and I also don't get weary, and I don't turn away from those I love. In areas you cannot see, what was being constructed against you has already begun to disintegrate piece by piece, and you'll quickly start to notice a massive change in the way your days feel. This exposure is just the start of a much bigger project that will affect every aspect of your situation and identity. Because only after a protracted season of preparing for impact can there be a true sense of relaxation. Even in times when you should have been at ease, you have lived with a low hum of caution beneath everything, a sense that you were unable to really unwind. But that buzz is starting to fade, my darling. It will become apparent to you in subtle ways. First, by breathing more easily, thinking more calmly, and sleeping through the night without the typical burden on your chest. I want you to know why I let you feel this battle before I told you everything. And it wasn't because I didn't protect you right away. It was because I was getting your spirit ready to identify my hand as soon as it moved, letting you feel the weight so that when it lifts, you would know without a doubt who lifted it, rather than taking away every challenge without you ever feeling the struggle. I operate in my loved ones' lives in this manner, showing you every location where my hand was already moving after we walk through the struggle together. You'll see it plainly when you look back at the people who abruptly withdrew, the odd delays, and the doors that refused to open, realizing it wasn't all at random, but all part of a greater safeguard that you were not yet aware of. I'm trying to plant something entirely new, so please don't let resentment grow, because the freedom I am giving you now will only be slowed down by bitterness. Give it to me instead, and allow me to retain what was never intended for you. For you're about to enter a season where my defense will feel more like an open field, where you can finally run without worrying about what's behind you, than like a shield held up against an attack. I am now constructing that for you, so that you forget what it was like to be terrified in this place of total safety. Today, declare your faith and type 555 to show you trust the person who sees what you can't. I want to talk to the part of you that has been hidden for far too long, my darling, because on some nights, it was difficult to fall asleep when your thoughts kept returning to the same concerns, and you questioned whether anyone, including me, noticed how depressed you had become. I observed every moment, and even though it seemed like you were bearing that burden alone, I was there during the dark hours, close enough to hear every query that went unanswered. It wasn't a weakness in your faith that caused you to feel heavy, because there are times when a person's spirit is more vulnerable to the invisible struggle, not because they are weak, but rather because they are in a position to make a big difference. Significant things are always met with opposition, and during those challenging months, you weren't crumbling, but rather in a battle you could not completely see. You were standing your ground, and I have taken note of your perseverance through it. I am aware that you looked for explanations, questioning if you felt so uneasy because of something you ate, something you said, or something you didn't do. But let go of that search, my child. Not everything that upsets your tranquility is the result of your own decisions, because a portion of it stems from forces opposing the purpose I have given your existence. Forces that saw that something positive was developing within you and attempted to stifle it before it could materialize. However, it has never once been successful to smother what I have planted across the entirety of history, and it won't be successful now. What was supposed to demoralize you now serves as evidence of your impending breakthrough, and your resistance did not indicate that you were far from receiving my blessing, but rather it was an indication that you were right on its edge, so close that Whatever was attempting to stop you could sense its menace. From now on, I want you to approach every sleepless night in a different way, remembering them as proof that something was going to change, rather than as proof that you were flawed. It is common to experience discomfort before a breakthrough, and the tension before the solution comes.